Okay, we're recording now.
Okay, we started recording a little late, but I guess we can start with hearing from you guys. Maybe if you want to tell us about your projects, what you're applying for on proposal on Fundate, and see if we can make some connections among us.
Absolutely. That's a very important point. Like if we can share something, this is about open source and open standard. Openness in the sense that we can share something, but to divide the efforts. Share something to do things better. An example is if you build a basic DApp with a super simple contract that has no business value, and you share with the others, then you have a starting base, the others have a starting base, maybe the others can improve a little bit, and you can see that you did some mistake, and together you can grow up the level on which you build upon. What are your projects?
I really appreciate that you guys kind of mapped out that I did put my proposals in the wrong kind of areas, and that interoperability point that you have in the developer point, that those two challenges are kind of for a specific thing. And like my issue I have with my developer by putting his product in the open source is because he still wants to get paid. So I have, you guys were really helpful that maybe, I put stuff into dApps and I put stuff into ID, but what I really have here is interoperability and developer challenges. So thank you, for sharing that part with me. That was really amazing. And honestly, if I could, get that proposal into even an open source mode, because the Matrix one, the proposal I put in is 100% open source, and all the dApps in that proposal are also open source. So it wouldn't be a bad collaboration for us. So I'm thinking maybe I will put a proposal into your guys' challenge for that one, and interoperability. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, what are you working on exactly? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I wish I could tell you all of it, but not all of it is open source, but the pieces that
tell us about the open source pieces.
Yes. This piece particularly is a voice over IP and streaming platform for communities, and it has integrations already pre-built open source in it. It's the Matrix platform. You can host your own servers. So we're onboarding NFT communities to safely have a place to get off of Discord and Telegram. And we're trying to put the dApps in interoperability with wallets and creating of apps in that ecosystem to have something safer for everybody to really get off of these social platforms, which aren't really safe for discussing a lot of these topics, and they're getting hacked. It's not a good recipe for where we're going here. So before that becomes the mainstream thing, the process to go through to make everything interoperable with Discord, when it's not safe to begin with, we shouldn't really go there. So the proposal is to get people off of Discord and off of these unsafe places, put them in an open source community that they can really get these apps built and the interoperability between the apps. So the Matrix network is supposed to be somewhere you can actually share. It's all end-to-end encrypted. And if we can get developers building in that ecosystem and integrating with GitHub and Graphena and all these other things that are already plug and play into this app, it's a great place to start. And, that's my small proposal. And it was kind of like the one you were talking about, where it has teams of actual incorporated companies to launch these pieces. We also have stuff about stake pools. We've been working on stake pools. Our ticker's the N2O pool, and we're up to 84 delegators, almost 500,000 ADA in the last 2 months. So our pool has been doing great. We minted 5 blocks so far, and we've been open sourcing that to onboard other SPOs and hold their hands to learn how to build it properly and be secure and host it on their own infrastructure and get it off of, Amazon and stuff.
This is something that can definitely go straight. What you already done can go straight into open source or open standards as a proposal. Of course, you basically need to package these documentation/video courses about doing this, and then is a package that is ready for others that want to take the SPO way. Yeah, you know, it's not really straightforward. You have to do some work.
It comes down to people and money, and like I can't have community funding people starting their own stake pools. There's a way to do that with the community and fund them, but I don't know how many people have really figured it out yet and are funding the community besides IOG with their stake pools. No one else is just pouring it back in.
I took a look a little bit, because the real problem is until you have a certain amount of ADA delegated, there is really no payout. Yeah, you are losing money. Unless what I think, I guess, is that you have to kind of increase in popularity or support some meaningful, I call it challenge, but some meaningful, not proposal, but some meaningful idea.
I'm open to putting stuff in, and I see we have Dan here. Obviously, I would love for you to get to him as well, so you guys can have something for your challenge videos and stuff moving forward. I do have to run here in like 2 more minutes, and I really appreciate your time, guys. And we're in the DApps and integration challenge, so if there's anything now that falls in our category that actually should be in your guys' category, since I understand all the levels better, I can shoot them over to you guys, because we have like over 100 proposals already.
Yes, please. If you think that some reasonable proposals are not going to get funded, suggest them to move it on one of the others. It's just about getting funded what has more value.
Maybe some open libraries or something that you use and that you would create anyway, that could be funneled into the open source developer challenge. Maybe think about that, Chris. Or ask your developer if there's any libraries or some stuff that can be like sliced out of your proposal and into the open source developer.
We built one here. The issue we run into is it's going so fast. If you're not constantly on top of it and funded for like that week to deliver it that time, that week, your data's like outdated by the time someone else goes and clicks on it. So it's really tough, because I could give you a library, but it's already obsolete. You know what I mean? And then that's not fair. I'm giving someone a broken tool or a broken textbook, you know?
And you need to get funds to keep it updated.
Yeah, that's the issue, is keeping it updated.
Yeah, but that's what the challenge is for. You can ask for funds to keep it updated and to keep it maintained, I guess.
Perfect. That's probably what I'll try to do then.
Yes,
awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Much needed.
Sounds super exciting.
Yeah, none of us love Discord, do we?
Well, we love and we hate it. I mean, it's centralized. That's the stupid part, but it's a powerhouse of features, and that's a good thing. But yeah, we should look for something more sustainable.
Yeah,
just tell me, how many notifications do you have right now that you haven't read? I'm gonna tell you 159 for me.
that is very exact, man.
That's because you're overexposed.
Probably. I have one group which has 42, and it's probably the group that I should check the most. It says Cardano group, so IOG Cardano Project Catalyst. I have 10 notifications there.
You know what I do? Every notification server that has more than 10 notifications, I throw in one folder.
Yeah,
this is
the way. It's not important. It's not important. The more I read notification, the more it should sink down. That's the algorithm.
You should implement that, Chris, if you're building something similar to Discord.
Because if you're not checking the notifications, obviously it's not important to you, you know?
Yeah, makes sense.
The problem of Discord is dispersive because of that many channels. A channel, some channel is not useful for you, and it's like general channel or after 5 channel in which somebody posts a meme. I don't really have time to check all the memes.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah, exactly.
And the point is, a channel is important for you. It contains a topic that you are focused on. If lets you understand, expand a little bit more in the direction you want. And each server has average 10, 12 channels. And also the owners of a channel, we are owners of a channel, they cannot really understand if something is important. If I go and delete one channel in a server, probably somebody is going to blame me in 2 weeks. So there is this, oh, I cannot really delete this channel. There should be some mechanism in place.
But that's why I love the thread feature that they introduced, because since they introduced the thread feature, in the service that I manage, I try to reduce the channels, and only if a thread remains for more than a day or 2 or even 3 days, it depends on the community, you make this thread into a channel. But you start with just a very like 2 or 3 channels, and then you organically grow the channels out of the threads. And if there's been a channel that has been inactive for over a month, you can say, okay, this channel will be closed in 7 days if there's no activity.
Okay,
that's how we go about in the Discord.
I think to me the best model I saw so far, it's the forum model, in which you have a question, you basically push the question in an asynchronous way, and somebody will go maybe reply to this in an asynchronous way. That could mean 1 month, 1 day, depending on the people that are listening on this specific topic. And for instance, in my case, if there is such a forum, I would definitely subscribe on some topic that is about creating dApps from Straight, in some topic that is about Bluetooth, some topic that is about state channels, probably also some specific from Hydra, and probably some forums for proposers and some for challenge team members. It's really about what are the topics of your interest. And if you look at all the Discord channels, probably in each Discord server, there are just a couple of channels that are important for you.
Let's welcome the newcomers. Hello, Joe. Hello, Sebastian. We have the open source dev ecosystem here, also the open standards and interoperability challenges. And I'm going to put the Discord link for both of these, which is a joint Discord for both of these challenges. If you'd like to join, please join. And if you want to talk about your proposals, please go ahead.
Awesome. I'll chat about the quadratic voting and funding. And essentially, I got inspired by one of the Swarm meetings, I think last Saturday, actually a week ago, and we were gonna bring Gitcoin to Cardano, right? Where Gitcoin has quadratic funding to power a lot of open source projects, and open source is a public good. It's whoever develops it, whether it's by us or Chris has open source components, Dan, right? It's out there and anyone can tap into it, use it, and by its nature for free, right? So I originally posted this in OSDE. I was thinking of doing it in the B2B challenge, but Patrick said, put it here. This is where it belongs. So thank you. Thanks for the guidance for sure. But especially I learned last week because of the introduction of the DREPs, delegated representatives, and consolidation of voting power, pretty much. And even today in Catalyst, love Catalyst, great innovation hub where people can just propose just like us, get some funding, get validation, bring people together around our projects to be able to launch them. but I want to be able to get more people involved and more funders involved than just the IOG treasury, right? If you look at Gitcoin's success last year, last year alone they have raised 53 million for open source projects, and you can imagine that benefits a lot, and they're built on the Ethereum network, Ethereum ecosystem. They have over like 300 something thousand developers now on that platform, just within a year, like totally. They've been around, and we're highly inspired by them. They've been around for maybe like 2 years. In total, they have raised 60 million just for open source projects, right? So imagine if you had like a dedicated platform with truly democratic quadratic voting. Quadratic voting just means it doesn't matter how much money you have in your wallet, right? Whether you have 1 million ADA or 100 ADA, your vote counts. So everyone kind of pools the money together as a grant, as a treasury, right? Could be 60 million, could be 20 million, could be however much, right? And Chris, I'd love to partner with you if you have a stake pool that invests in open source, right? And any stake pool, any investor, anyone really that cares about funding public good, the public good, and we can start with developer and open source ecosystem, right? But someone the other day told me, hey, how about just funding any nonprofit projects, right? Any public goods with a quadratic voting. So I think Gitcoin has something like funding for a cause to climate. That's a public good, if there's one, right? So that's what we're doing, and we're building it completely open sourced, because if we really want to democratize voting and democratize funding sources and decentralized funding sources for public goods, it also makes sense to make this a completely a platform that's completely built by the community and owned by the community.
Very interesting idea. I think Dan has a question.
Yes, I know about quadratic voting. I'm wondering, how does it is it different than quadratic funding, or is it just is it the same idea, just different terms?
So quadratic voting is the mechanism that assigns a vote, assigns the same power to every vote, right? In quadratic funding is when you also assign the same you distribute the funding based on the vote, based on the equal vote. So on Catalyst right now, like if there's a whale backs your project, that can get you funded, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the quadratic voting system, if a whale backs your project, that only counts as a one vote out of however many. Doesn't matter if they have a ton of money in their wallet or not. So the funding piece is very closely linked to the voting piece. It's
Okay.
pretty much uniformly distributed.
Okay.
So quadratic voting is everyone's vote counts more or less the same. Quadratic funding is based on this quadratic voting. You distribute the funding proportionally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's not like if I have 1,000 ADA in my wallet and I vote for this project, then this project has 1,000 ADA worth of votes. It's just one vote, right? And if 100 people vote for this project, out of 100 people, right, then this fund will get 100% of the funding. But
Yeah,
if 50 or 10%, whatever, then
if it's community,
was it?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Patrick. I was under the impression that it's a matter of how early you vote with quadratic voting. So if I have very little, but I vote very early on, that this somehow is enhancing the vote or giving the vote more weight. That's what I thought was what quadratic voting was about.
It's more about popularity, how many votes you can muster, right? And it's the most optimal way to essentially get support for public goods, because it's designed the public goods that get the most votes get the most funding and support, right? Now then, if you vote early, right, the proposals that can get early support, eventually that has network effect in itself, and more people will vote.
Okay.
Right.
See.
But ultimately, the result is based on the votes themselves.
You're talking about quadratic voting, and basically everyone counts one.
Yep, exactly.
That I think makes sense. Like you said, you said it makes sense for community-owned resources. But I think what we have in Catalyst is basically a stake representation. So the people, they started investing earlier, they had a higher amount of ADA, and thus their stakes are higher. And we have to, I think we probably have to balance everyone is worth one and the initial stake. Because it's like, okay, let's consider a capitalistic system. If you remove the fact that somebody has an initial stake, it falls down, the capitalistic system. And on the other side, if you remove the fact that everybody is worth the same, it's going to fall down the idea that we have a socialistic system, which, by the way, is just two ways of seeing how things, two philosophy of operation of a community typically. That's interesting. This is a very interesting topic. I think it should be integrated. They should be integrated.
Yeah, you're totally right, Patrick. One system, it's like I compared quadratic funding to like VC investor, right? VC investors do typically wealth, they have money, and their job is to optimize for return on investment on their money. And you don't see VCs investing in public goods very often, right? Actually, almost never.
They never do.
Yeah,
Never.
because that's not their interest, obviously, right? And on the other side is quadratic voting and funding. And when community has communities that benefit from public goods the most will get the most engaged, right? And they will also invest the most.
But there is the problem. Discoverability is the problem.
The tragedy of the commons.
There is a very good candidate, but you know, the strong power can make this candidate unknown to everybody. That's
and at the same time, you expect the community to have all the information to make a decision that is, I wouldn't say correct, but somehow valuable to the overall community. And this is something that is super difficult, I think, because as we've seen, it's not always a consensus about what we actually need as a community.
What I saw at Eclipse, in Eclipse open source, it typically was, I don't know, I work on Eclipse, I see a bug, and I write a bug report. Hey, there is this bug. When I open Eclipse on Mac, I cannot click on the title bar. And sometimes, kind of often, the response was, okay, you found the bug, solve it yourself. And I think that that open source community, they use the fact that you invest your time to report and slash try to solve the bug, or comment if somebody else is commenting on your bug report. So the bug report itself is some sort of forum that takes its own life. And the more content there is in these Bugzilla and these bug reports, the more people you see. You see there, like in a mailing list, what was the interest, who was interested. You see the name, the company they work for. This is another model. And this model is, I don't know if you can call it proof of work, but basically you are demonstrating that you are willing to invest your time on it.
Yeah, I hear you both. Discoverability is always about execution, right? If you can execute well, like, and to that point, you know, even for you, Patrick, like there's challenge of getting people into open source, right? Because how do I start? Right? There's no documentation, whatever. But I want to point to Gitcoin's use case and case study, right? Money brings people. If you have money, right, people will learn. If you put, hey, here's a 5K bounty on this open source project, right? No matter there's no documentation, people will figure it out.
I don't,
You know what I mean?
agree. I don't agree. I think that I want, so basically money brings people, but let's say that the people, they do nothing to improve the ecosystem. And you'll have a bunch of people living off funding. I think the motivation of the people should generate more return and then involve other people because the ecosystem is returning. So instead of, how can I say, this funding, this seed funding, is to give the option to hardworking people. They really want to spend their time on the community, on technical things to improve the community. And this seed funding is to help you to start your own company. And the Cardano Foundation, IOG/Catalyst, wants you to start your own enterprise, become commercially successful, and then go back to them and pay for their services after you become successful. And this part, the part in which you want motivated people, I think it's kind of missing. It's not really missing, because now we are talking all together and we are showing that we are willing to invest our time to learn more. For instance, in my case, I really want to find somebody that wants to build, you know, a basic skeleton of a DApp that can be used by everybody. So you have something that works. It is basically the hello world for a DApp, and then everybody will build in their direction. And then probably somebody is going to contribute back to the hello world for a DApp, in Cardano DApp, by the way. And then this is going to become better, more secure, have more documentation, and it's really something that you can quickly use to spin off projects. That's how most, from my point of view, most of the well-known open source projects, they become successful because of this. A simple but well-documented initial proof that was extensible enough to be used in several cases. I can think at Java, I can think at Python, I don't know about C++, but I mean, there is a number of hello words that, there's a number of, buona pizza. Sorry, my wife just showed me the pizza. Yeah. And shortly said, when I think at open source, I always go back to the basics and search for people that have motivation, because it's all we need. I don't know Haskell, but I can learn it. And by learning Haskell, by learning Plutus, I'm learning Haskell, and I become able to build a DApp if you give me that's true. If you give me the open source code, I will go at the bottom of the open source code, but only if this is a functional unit of work. And if you give me some open source of a very complex project, like I give you the open source code of Bluetooth apps, no way a normal developer can understand and work on it. If you give me the open source code of a complex app, Pancake Swap, whatever, no way that I understand how it works. If you give me the most simple app, then I understand how it works. From there, I can go further.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Patrick. I think, you know, a lot of the Plutus developers, right, they would understand, they just don't have time to write the documentation and are not correctly incentivized to do that.
My professor at university told me, Patrick, if you don't write documentation now, you will never write documentation. And what I observed is, if you don't write documentation, that's not going to be used. It should be really clear what I want. I want like that Cardano offers a lot of basic open source projects that have a basic functional unit of work that you can take and customize. If we can provide these, and if we can keep these updated, we can skip from one simple model to another simple model in no time, and our community will be the most successful. It's already successful, but we want better.
Right. So do you think, Patrick, that let's say someone asks for money to increase documentation, right, for Plutus?
Open source and open standards are about that. Not only, but also about that.
Also consider all the people that would be willing to fund this outside of IOG.
I tell you, there were a lot of votes for the open source and open standards challenge. One of the reasons is because some opinionists showed up in a Cardano town hall saying, "Oh, these are very interesting projects. Thank you." But the other thing is because I think many, maybe they are like me. They go there. They want. I want to work with blockchain, advanced topics. I need to understand more, but start from the bits. What if everybody speak high level? It's like you enter a world made of theoretical physicists, and everybody is talking about the gradient of something. Oh, come on, tell me the basic math. Explain me how you do the deltas, and then we go to the n-dimensional world. So the point is, you want to start small and always have something working, something that is focusing your attention. And from that, start evolving. You want the basic unit of work, then you have an idea, and then try to reach that idea, starting from your unit of work. When you reach it, you have a second unit of work. Now you are working towards something that you achieved. You can make it open source already when you achieve the second one. And maybe that somebody can say, no, that's not really the perfect way. But if you, from the second point that you reached, you go to a third point, if that was not really good, maybe you will have some issues. That's why many people that can contribute on the tree of evolution of ideas, they can be really helpful. Sorry, I'm going really too deep and I'm wasting your time. I don't want.
No, it's great. I'm learning a lot. Thank you.
Guys, I think we have about 4 minutes left. Dan, would you like to mention your proposal, what you have got going on? Not much time left, but you have a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shakan. So I initially wanted to post this proposal in the miscellaneous challenge. And then 2 weeks ago, I think I talked with Patrick and who else was there? I don't know, was it Peter?
I think also Nin was there. Were you?
Who?
Yeah,
Nin, I think also Nin was there.
You were there as well, Nin? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you, Patrick, you urged me to maybe think about how to or to actually publish it in the open source developer ecosystem, because the main mechanism or main part that we're developing is this search engine that should be open source for other people to use as a kind of funding mechanism. So there's this Ecosia search engine. It's a German company, and they are basically a search engine company, but all the profit they make from the clicks through advertisement and stuff, they use to plant trees. So the idea is to create an open source search engine, because Ecosia, they are somewhat open source, but the search engine itself is not really open source. They have an iOS browser that is open source, but all the other stuff is really not.
Open source
So
does not mean GPL. If you tell GPL, everybody is going to be scared. Open source means maybe there is something that you want to share, but also get from the community. What I see from your proposal, first of all, you are asking really little funding because it's an open source which has 1.2 million, and you are asking 16,000. That's minimal compared to the extent of the challenge. You can be more ambitious. Now, step number one. Step number two, I was looking at your proposal, and it looks interesting.
It's not yet fully completed. The roadmap is still missing, but I had the budget in. I will add the calculation for setting up the facilities. I will add some more information about the positive impact of algae on the human body. And yeah, there's still a couple of stuff missing, but the basic framework is in there. So I tried to get feedback, and I ideally also find a developer, because without the developer, this doesn't make sense. We had a developer until 2 months ago, but he was offered a job. So this is his calculation and estimations that I posted in the proposal. And the idea is to
reach Gimba Labs, or you can try to form yourself if you think you want to do this. But I mean, it's really, or form yourself means following Pluto's Pioneer program, which is not easy, it takes a lot of time. But first important thing is, are we all in contact? Chakan just shared the channel, which I'm pasting again in the chat. Sorry, I copied the wrong link.
I know that one.
Yeah, I'm sure you know. So this is the channel of open source and open standard challenges. You get there, you get in touch with anybody that is a challenge team member. We must and want to help you in understanding what can be good. How your proposal can be improved. We want you to be successful. Okay, that's our scope.
Perfect. Same here.
Challenge team members, they like the idea of the challenge, and I mean, of course, there is a little bit of incentive, but the main thing is we love what you are going to do, and we want to help. How you need to propose, which are the stages, how to connect. You know, it's a Discord channel, it's hard to pick, but a message with and then challenge team members, you reach all the challenge team members. If you don't know all of them, Chakan.
You have a role, challenge team members, or?
It's a role, it's a role.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I see. Wonderful.
But in theory, the challenge team members, I don't know, a couple of times a week, they should look at the channel. If there is a very specific thing, you spin off with a conversation, and then we will have a talk. I know from that generic chat, we can get into maybe one-to-one chat, maybe on a call, and then try to solve the problem together.
Wonderful. That sounds lovely. I love it. I joined. I will write a short intro and ask and add, mention you guys, and then we
Awesome.
take it from there. That's very helpful. Thank you guys.
And
Amazing.
for your proposal, remember, it's super important to find other people. I was super lucky to find Chakan when we were proposing. We met because the idea looked interesting to the both of us. And yeah, we still have less than 5 minutes, but the point is find other people that you share interest. Maybe that your proposal, and like I said, you can be really more ambitious. You can ask up to 20% of the fund thingy. 1.2 million means 1.2 times 2 is 240K per proposal. If you go above, somebody's going to kill you. Some way.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense to ask for more money if there's no, like,
that's the spirit.
It has to be reasonable, you know.
That's the spirit. That this is up to the community. You know how you should be paid, but also consider if you want to pay a Plutus developer, these guys tend to be expensive. If you don't have already the Plutus developer, that maybe you want to increase a little bit what you ask.
I mean, the budget is without any ledger integration. The ledger integration is nice to have, so there's no explicit need for a Plutus developer. That's why I guess the estimation is quite low. I could draw up another estimation with the ledger integration. Yeah, but
when you write a proposal, what is important is you should read carefully the challenge and then write how your proposal is addressing the challenge, including the challenge scope, how it's going to be measured, and what will be the impact. These are the most important things. The impact such that the community advisor or CA, they can actually read your proposal and assign a value. And it's basically from 0 to 5 stars, or maybe to 1, from 1 to 5 stars. And then what I can tell you is, in average, if you get 4.5 stars, that means it's a good idea. People most probably are going to vote it, and you most likely are going to be funded.
I actually had a five-star rating last fund in one of my proposals.
Really?
It was a small one, yeah, but it was a 5-star rating. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, they are closing us off. I'm stopping the recording.
Okay.
I'm stopping the recording now. Sorry.
Yeah.